Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday to you. You have made it. Congratulations. I'm Rob Evans. Welcome to Daybreak Plus. We're breaking down all the news you may have missed overnight and digging deep into what matters to you. We're going to talk about the NCAA women's tournament, Texas's chances coming up in just a few moments. But first, on to politics as the president continues to make cuts of federal programs, a setback for Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency. The federal judge blocking Doge from accessing sensitive Social Security records. A lot of people are curious about this. ABC's Nicole D'Antonio has more.
In a 137-page ruling, a judge blocking Doge's unrestricted access to sensitive Social Security agency data, saying the Trump administration failed to justify the need for the data, which they claimed was crucial for identifying potential fraud. The judge calling Doge's actions a, quote, fishing expedition, saying the group's approach to identifying fraud is tantamount to hitting a fly with a sledgehammer. The ruling comes as President Trump signs an executive order to dismantle the Department of Education, saying he'll return education to the states.
We're going to eliminate it, and everybody knows it's right. And the Democrats know it's right.
The Department of Education has been chiefly responsible for enforcing civil rights laws to prevent discrimination in schools, overseeing the process for students applying for college financial aid, and overseeing funding to help low-income schools and students with disabilities. Republicans have slammed the Education Department as polluted by liberal ideology and bloated bureaucracy. The Trump administration saying it will preserve it and overseeing funding to help low-income schools, Pell Grants, and money for children with disabilities. But some parents worry the massive job cuts will impact services that support their children.
I've always been really proud to be an American because of how much we fight for those who can't fight their own battles or need help. And I just feel like we're doing the opposite of that now. The message that's being sent is that if you require more energy, then too bad, we can't help you.
President Trump is not able to fully eliminate the Department of Education without congressional approval, but his executive order will dramatically scale down its function. Nicole D'Antonio, ABC News, Washington.
And U.S. Senator from Texas, Ted Cruz, is showing state lawmakers his support for education savings accounts. He made a visit to the Texas Capitol. He brought ads praising House Republicans who support education savings accounts, better known as school vouchers. This proposed program would let families use taxpayer money to help pay for private school tuition. Now, the senator says that he wanted to cheer on state lawmakers in person as they push to pass this bill. Take a listen.
Right now, the Texas House of Representatives is taking up what I think is the single most important issue before the Texas legislature, and that is school choice. School choice, I believe, is the civil rights issue of the 21st century.
Opponents say state funds should not be spent on private schools. The House ESA bill was left pending in committee last week. Now, the Senate has already passed its version, by the way, and we'll, of course, continue to follow this story for you. Taking a live look at the state capitol right now. Under the dome, a debate on election bills as well. Lawmakers considering a bill that would require Texans to prove their citizenship to register to vote. It's Senate Bill 16, and it would apply to both current and new voters. Texans would have to show a U.S. passport, a birth certificate, or naturalization paper to register to vote. Now, if they can't prove citizenship, they would only be able to vote in some federal races, but not for president. The bill would also make it a felony for an election official to knowingly register a voter without verifying they are, in fact, a citizen. The committee left Senate Bill 16 pending. Here is State Senator Daniel Hunt.
Voting is a right and a duty of citizens. It is a right that we offer foreigners who want to move to the U.S. to encourage them to become citizens. Anytime a non-citizen votes, it diminishes the vote of every citizen.
Now, that bill is modeled after Arizona's system of split voter rolls, and that's prompted a whole lot of legal fights. Critics say it would disproportionately affect voters from historically marginalized groups because some may have trouble finding paper proof of citizenship. And faith leaders are voicing concerns about an executive order allowing immigration and custom enforcement agents to enter places of worship. Back in January, the Trump administration removed a policy that blocked ICE enforcement in sensitive areas like schools and houses of worship. Well, a coalition of Quaker meetings from states like Maryland, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania sued the Department of Homeland Security, and a second lawsuit involved even more religious groups. Local congregations are now backing these lawsuits and hope ICE stays away from their places of worship. ICE agents are permitted to arrest people suspected of being in the U.S. illegally. Right now, one ruling has stopped ICE from going into certain places of worship. Here's Reverend Catherine Barlow Williams.
We pray that it doesn't, but we would do everything in our power to make sure our members and our guests, anybody who steps foot in our church, knows what their rights are.
Now, some local leaders say they are open to hosting Immigration 101 and Know Your Rights classes. It is a 7:06. Let's get a look at weather and traffic. Grace doing double duty once again for us, and a chilly start today, but does that mean it's going to be pretty later?
Yeah, it is going to be pretty later. I mean, I think it's pretty right now. We're starting to see our first light of sunset out, or sunrise. Man, it's Friday, isn't it? All right, sunrise out there looks pretty good. We are seeing some pretty cool conditions, especially out towards the airport. 35 degrees over there, 45 for Camp Mabry, so a little bit warmer as you head into town here. Temperatures across the board in the mid-40s all the way down to the mid-30s and even the lower 30s we've seen on the map so far this morning. San Marcos at 39, Austin at 45. We're also seeing the upper 30s out towards the south and east today. Wind speeds are looking calm for the moment. However, they will become a bit more blustery as we head into this afternoon. In addition to that, we'll also see dry conditions out there. Very warm afternoon. I think all in all, people are really going to like this forecast, up to about 80 degrees or maybe inching towards those upper 70s levels. All right, but here are those wind speeds as we head into this afternoon. Noon through about 6 p.m. we'll be gusting up to about 20-25 miles per hour, and that will put us back in that fire danger risk. Now, we'll take a look at that map in just a second, but our allergy forecast for today is going to be medium for those trees, so make sure that you get in that allergy medication as we head through this weekend. So here's that fire outlook for today. We're in the very high category across the I-35 corridor. Out towards the hill country, you guys are back in the extreme category, so you want to continue to practice your fire safety precautions. All right, this weekend looking really nice. Saturday, gorgeous, 86 degrees, mostly sunny conditions. We'll work back in some clouds for the first half of our Sunday, and you'll see some rain chances for Sunday evening. Isolated thunderstorms will be possible, but I think most of us will just see some scattered rains around town. Now, we have additional chances for rain as we head throughout to next week. Almost every single day next week has some rain chances, and what you can't see on the map is Friday included in this is we will have a 60% chance of rain across our region. You know, all the way out that could change, but you know, it's something we're kind of crossing our fingers for because we need the rain here. So Sunday night into our Monday, we'll see that scattered chance for some rain, maybe a couple of thunderstorms. We don't have a severe risk for thunderstorms Sunday into Monday, so that is good news. As for Thursday and Friday of next week, we'll start to watch a big old place of moisture out there towards northern Mexico. That'll be shifting across our region as we head into Friday afternoon and maybe even lingering into Saturday of next week. So here's that full forecast for you guys to look at. I'm really excited to be tracking some more rain in the forecast, and thankfully our temperatures aren't looking like they're going to fall too far in the next 7 days. All right, we do have a check on traffic this morning. The last time I checked, there wasn't too much going on out there. We did have a couple of extra crashes. Taft Lane looking pretty slow as you head southbound there, or maybe that's northbound actually. And then over towards Ben White and I-35 South, things are moving on pretty swimmingly. Buda is our slowest spot on the map as for now. Pretty nice and green as you head in from Cedar Park and Round Rock this morning. Here's a look across the region at those crashes out there and some stalled vehicles too. This main crash is going to be over towards Airport Boulevard and Glissman Road. That just happened about 20 minutes ago, so that may be causing some slowdowns. We did have another crash up to the north of that, but has been cleared, so we're all good there. And then down towards the south end at MLK Jr. Boulevard and I-35 northbound, it looks like we're also seeing a stalled vehicle, which could be causing some slowdowns on the frontage road, but other than that, looks pretty good. All right, back to you, Rob. Happy Friday.
Well, happy Friday. Thank you very much. And if you are heading out on the roads, a new warning about the safety of some of the best-known bridges in the entire country that millions of drivers cross every day. In the wake of last year's bridge collapse in Baltimore, federal investigators are calling for action. Here's ABC's Andrew Dimbert.
An urgent message from the National Transportation Safety Board. It's now urging dozens of bridges across the country be assessed for risk of collapse if hit by a ship.
What we are telling bridge owners is that they need to know the risk and determine what actions they need to take to ensure safety.
Among them, the Brooklyn Bridge, Golden Gate Bridge, Chicago Skyway Bridge, and the Benjamin Franklin Bridge in Pennsylvania. The recommendation comes as NTSB officials release new details about the collapse of Baltimore's Key Bridge. It's been nearly a year since a cargo ship lost power, slamming into the bridge, causing it to collapse, killing 6 people. Officials saying the disaster could have been avoided.
Had they ran the calculation on the Francis Scott Key Bridge, the MDTA would have been aware that the bridge was almost 30 times greater than the risk threshold AASHTO sets.
Now the NTSB has identified 68 other bridges in 19 states that span waterways frequented by cargo ships, and like the Key Bridge, they don't have a current vulnerability assessment, and they were built before 1991. The year new design standards were adopted to protect bridges from ship collisions. The agency acknowledging the 68 bridges are not certain to collapse if struck by a ship, but they are above the acceptable level of risk. In response, officials with the Golden Gate Bridge said the bridge is in full compliance with all state and federal regulations, and said a consultant was recently hired to assess the bridge's structural capacity for ship collisions. Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, New York.
Well, a lot of us are busy juggling kids, juggling work, juggling school, worried about bridges, maybe. Grabbing packaged snacks and meals, yeah, it's quick and convenient, right? But it can come at a cost. A lot of these are ultra-processed foods, and eating too many of them, well, obviously it's bad for us. We know that, right? As Consumer Reports explains, finding easier, healthier options to put a meal on the table in minutes isn't as complicated as you might think. Take a look.
Juliana Cabrera makes simple, healthy meals at home, but she keeps pre-made food handy for those times when she needs a little more comfort.
Foods that I'm tied to nostalgia, right? Because of where I grew up. Oftentimes cheese sticks, so it's like rolled up dough filled with cheese that are often fried, are a weak point in my household.
Prepackaged foods are a staple for most of us. 60% of the average American diet is made up of ultra-processed foods, or UPFs. What makes something ultra-processed? Amy Keating is a nutritionist at Consumer Reports.
It can be confusing because so many foods fall under the ultra-processed foods umbrella. But what we're talking about are industrial manufactured foods like chips, packaged cookies, and drinks that are high in added sugar and sodium and often contain a long list of chemical ingredients.
UPFs also tend to pack a lot of calories in a small amount of food, making them easier to eat and overeat. This can lead to weight gain and an increased risk of diabetes. Even healthy-sounding products like deli turkey and packaged wheat bread can be heavily processed with many additives and too much sugar or sodium.
Your best bet is to eat more whole foods, but you can't avoid all packaged foods, so choose the ones that are processed as little as possible.
There are plenty of processed foods you can feel good about eating. Canned fish, such as tuna, salmon, and sardines, are a budget-friendly way to get protein. Also, pre-cooked soups and whole grains can save you significant time in the kitchen. Just make sure to check the sodium counts. Juliana also mixes whole and processed foods to ensure her diet is healthy and conforms to her lifestyle.
It's not always easy. I'm not going to lie. Winter is hard, but yeah, it's really just about staying healthy as I get older.
This is Mara Ramirez Amin.
Now, unfortunately, just read this, among the most harmful of processed foods are some of our favorites: sugary sodas, energy drinks, sweet coffee drinks, or cocktails. And apparently cutting back on those can go a long way in improving your overall health, at least your physical health. I don't know about mental health, waking up without all that caffeine, but there you have it. Well, if you are heading to D.C. this spring, Washington, D.C., the city's iconic cherry blooms approaching peak bloom already. But you may notice that trees are flowering earlier now than in years past. Why? Well, here's ABC's Ginger Z.
If you've been to Washington, D.C. in the early spring, you've probably seen the glorious cherry blossom trees flowering along the tidal basin. The annual bloom comes with plenty of fanfare, even its own festival.
It's breathtaking, to be honest.
But now it's all happening earlier because of climate change. The National Park Service has been recording data on the trees' peak bloom since 1921, which was just 9 years after they were gifted to the U.S. by Japan. The average peak bloom is April 3rd, but these days it's coming sooner. According to the EPA, for 15 of the last 20 years, it's been more than a week early.
Of course, the biggest problem is if you move bloom too far forward, then a late freeze event comes along. We get what the meteorologists talk about as an Alberta clipper or something like that. And that freeze can essentially wipe out a crop overnight.
And that could be the end of cherry blossom season. Earlier blooms and more volatile weather patterns are markers of seasonal shifts connected to climate change. As our world warms, we're going to see hotter summers, shorter and milder winters, and earlier spring blooms. This year's cherry blossom peak bloom is forecast for a few days sooner than average, between March 28th and 31st. Last year, the trees bloomed 2.5 weeks sooner than average. Despite potential challenges from an early bloom, horticulturist Chris Walsh thinks people are still going to turn out to the tidal basin to see the flowers every spring.
We're all fair weather visitors for the cherry blossom. So even if they're early, you're going to get a day or two that's pretty darn warm, and there's going to be a mob at the tidal basin. There's no doubt about that. It's a very short-lived flowering period, and I think that's what the Japanese sort of talk about, one of the reasons it's so evanescent.
With this Climate Minute, I'm Ginger Z.
Beautiful sight there. Beautiful sight. All right, time to dive deep into what you're caring about right now. Hopefully it's the NCAA tournament, because that's what we're talking about, the women's side. And we now know who the Lady Longhorns will play in the first round of the big dance right here in Austin. William and Mary beat out High Point in their first 4 match of the play-in game at the Moody Center last night, 69-63. Now, UT has had plenty of days to prepare for their first round game in front of the friendly Moody crowd. They took the number 1 seed in the Birmingham region, so their opening round match will be at home. Here's the Longhorns guard, Rory Harmon.
We have our great fans that show up for us every night, no matter what time we were playing, and so I think it's obviously like a great advantage to have that home court advantage with, hopefully we'll get about like 10.5K again. I love that number right now, but it's just great to play in front of our fans.
A tip-off, by the way, 8:45 tomorrow night. Yes, it's a little bit later than normal, but get on out there and support the Lady Longhorns. That is going to be an exciting time. And the Texas women's team is expected to go much further in the bracket than the men did, who were eliminated in the play-in round, or the first 4, if you will. A lot of people are even expecting the women to win it all, including KVUE Sports Director Jeff Jones. We talked to him earlier on Daybreak. Plus, take a listen.
I really can't say enough great things about this team. They have a perfect mix of veteran leadership, players who have been 3-year starters, some players who have been starters and key producers here in Texas and at other schools, and they have a young elite talent in Madison Booker. This young woman can play 1 through 4, so that's point guard, shooting guard, small forward, and power forward, and she can succeed at all of those positions when she enters the WNBA draft, which won't be this year, but in the future when she does, I expect her to be a top 3 or 4 pick. She is a program changer. And when you pair her up with a guy like Vic Schaefer, who knows the X's and O's as well as anyone in the sport, you can get a special, special run. You'll remember that when Vic Schaefer was here his first 2 seasons, he led the Longhorns to the Elite 8. And those teams, nothing against those teams, but talent-wise,
this is better.
Those teams don't compare. This one's way better, like you said, Rob. So there is no ceiling for this team. There's no team in the nation that this year's Texas Longhorns women's basketball team can't beat. And honestly, if they bring their A game and they catch somebody on the right day, they might end up beating everybody decisively.
Exciting time there, just in time to watch the games. A new spot near UT's campus is celebrating all things women's sports. It's called 1972 Women's Sports Pub. It's the city's first women's sports bar. It's now open. KVUE's Kelsey Sanchez got a look inside.
At this new bar in Austin, athletes from all sports are on display. But you might notice this spot has a theme.
We need everyone watching women's sports.
The 1972 Women's Sports Pub on Guadalupe Street is dedicating its screens to women's sports only. Co-founder and general manager Deborah Hallam says this is a chance to put a spotlight on games that are overlooked despite growing viewership throughout the women's sports world. For example, last year's Women's Final Four had 4 million more viewers than the men's, in large part because of basketball player Caitlin Clark.
Women's sports is now more available than it's ever been. I think that's very important that people know it's there.
And there's a reason 1972 is part of its name. It was the year the landmark Title IX civil rights law was enacted, eliminating sex-based discrimination.
We wanted to have that significant title that represented a change in girls and women's sports.
A change, Hallam says, they hope to continue to spread with this pub and want others to enjoy no matter their gender.
We are open for all. We want, again, that's part of the issue. If women watching women's sports could fix the gap and fix everything, it would have been fixed years ago.
For now, the owners are just grateful to have a spot to have all women's sports in one place for everyone.
I love to be able to have a place that I can come and watch with friends.
Like Christina Swanson, who is looking forward to coming here and watching upcoming games.
I will definitely be watching University of Florida, probably watch Texas just because I have to.
Well, you don't have to, but we hope you do. Watch Texas. And we leave you, by the way, this morning with something to talk about. And today, a group of military veterans from Austin are heading to Washington, D.C. This is so cool. We absolutely love anytime we can show you this. The trip will take 48 veterans to D.C. to visit the memorials that honor their service. And we thank every single one of these men and women for their service. If you have a time to go out to the airport and welcome them back, say, just thank you so much. Or welcome them to the airport. The flight leaves later today at 1 o'clock. And just, again, thank you again to all the men and women who are on that flight and who have served our country. We appreciate all of you. Well, that's it for Daybreak Plus right now. Let us know what you would like to talk about. You can message us at 512-459-9442. You can also message me at Rob Evans TV on all the social medias, Instagram, Facebook, or X. And stick around because Daybreak continues right here on KVUE Plus. Goodbye, everybody.